We are back. I'm your host, Barry Waxler, here with the always lovely and talented Andrea Kay, the always incredible Urban Miaras, and a great show. Before we get started with some of our guests, Urban, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about something. We talked earlier in the week about different ways to do startup funding for entrepreneurs with disabilities. So tell us, how would somebody find money for a startup if they're disabled?
Well, there's a number of ways. You know, of course, you have the traditional funding method, which is banks, SBA loan guarantees, other types of borrowing or equity funding, equity and debit funding. But the non-traditional way is how most people, disabled and non-disabled, start their business. Very few people go to their local bank and get a loan to start a business. They usually use traditional lenders later on in their business career. Especially if you have no credit or a poor credit rating, no money, maybe you haven't worked due to a disability for years, so you have to do alternatives. Most people get their startup funding from their own resources, and that includes whatever they've saved or from family and friends. And that's one way. However, there's so many other ways. Using equity in a home for many people with disabilities is not an option. Because you still have to prove how you're going to pay back the loan you borrowed on your equity funding, and that's where Equity Key, as an example, would be a wonderful way to look at options. But other ways are from people in vendor. I had one business, a restaurant that I opened up, and had no money many years ago. And Montford Beef was in town, and I had a German restaurant at the time. And I said, I'll guarantee that I'll always buy beef from you as our business grows. Now, a little restaurant that's at 38, why would they be excited about us? Well, a year and a half later, we're seating 440, and they loved us. So there's ways with vendors, your suppliers, your competitors. Competitors love to support others. People don't realize.
Talk about competitors. Let's talk about vendors for a second.
Yes.
Do vendors typically have a budget for this type of thing?
Not necessarily, and it depends on the business. Sometimes it could be a distributor who's looking to expand their market or to capture something, and it's a good way of going and working, of course, with the vendors, even if they just extend credit, such as with the restaurant.
Right.
Most vendors starting out in business have to pay cash right away when they start out before they give them a 30-day credit. I had a 90-day credit with Montford Beef. So in other words, I got the beef, and I had 90 days to pay that back. Talk about using equity.
I'm not going to go
again, look at sources of funding that you would normally have to pay for that could be either given to you or delayed payment or something. Leasing is another great way. Don't go out and buy an ice machine, as an example, right away. If you're going to be in anything in food, so go rent or lease an ice machine. You don't know the headaches you're going to have with ice machines if you buy them in the maintenance. You're better off leasing an ice machine as but one example. But there's so many alternative ways of funding. Private investors or family and friends that could be a nightmare for you. Be careful where you get your money and understand the payback. Just because someone gives you money that you think will help you with your business and they have a percentage of your business or a say in your business could be devastating.
Right.
I've seen that on Shark Tank, to where they give up too much of a percentage for too little money and give in terms of control. Have you ever done any deals in terms of trade or barter?
Oh, yeah, sure. Many times. You've got to be very careful with barter, especially with the IRS.
Okay.
Because barter is still an equity type thing. It's a dollar value for a dollar value, and you should record that with your books, and your accountant should be aware of that.
Yeah, always check with your accountant on finances before you get started.
We've done, and as an example, we had a fish market where we were working, and they were short on cash, and they wanted to buy a bunch of lobster from Australia. But the bank wouldn't lend them the money. However, we gave them a guarantee that we would buy so many pounds of lobster, and from that, they were able to get the loans, and we had all the lobster you can eat for $4.95.
Oh, wow.
So that was on a Thursday night. Yes,
fantastic.
So these are, there's so many sources. You got to check into your resources and your assets. You've got to know where you stand in a community, who you know, and who you know that knows somebody that could help you. Again, it's not always cash you need in business.
Right. Well, let's wrap this up and tell our listeners how they can find out more from you if they have any questions and they want to run them by you.
Well, besides me doing seminars on alternative financing, if you have a question, email me at urban@disabledbusiness.com.
And if you want to go to one of his seminars, just send that email off and say, where's your seminar at? And he'll send that off to you.
I will. Matter of fact, I'll be doing one tomorrow.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.